Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We just passed 520 subs. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and I hope I can continue to make great content you guys will enjoy in the future. Now, star freshman guard out of Indiana, Jalen Hood-Schifino, has declared for the 2023 NBA Draft, and he is foregoing his college eligibility, so he will not be returning to Indiana next season. I'm going to go over whether I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is ready for the NBA Draft and where I think this leaves Indiana for next season. Now, looking at Jalen Hood-Schifino, as a high school prospect, a lot of people had him as a 5-star recruit. He was mostly ranked in the top 30 of most recruiting services, and a lot of people thought he would have a lot of success wherever he went to play college basketball. In his freshman year, I don't think a lot of people thought he would be a one and done. A lot of people thought he would be a 2-year player, but Jalen Hood-Schifino decided to commit to Indiana, and he was one of their highest recruits they've had in many years. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of Montverde Academy, and he was supposed to have a lot of success, but he was going to play beside Xavier Johnson for the whole entire season for Indiana, and he was more than likely going to be a 2-year player, but Xavier Johnson went down with a foot injury, and Jalen Hood-Schifino took over the point guard role for the Hoosiers all season long, and that is where Hood-Schifino really shined, because he's a 6'5", 6'6" type point guard that can handle the ball, and he can also shoot threes, and he can get to the rim, and he's a great passer, and I think this is where his strengths lie. That's why he's being projected as a first-round draft pick. If you look at ESPN, they have him ranked number 13 right now in the NBA draft rankings. There are a lot of mixed opinions on Jalen Hood-Schifino, and we'll get into some of his weaknesses in a second. And that's why in some NBA draft rankings, he's in the 20s, and some even have him close to 30. But a lot of rankings have him in the top 20, and even in the lottery. And ESPN has him at number 13 because of the fact Jalen Hood-Schifino is such a tantalizing prospect. There are not that many 6'5", 6'6" guards that can handle the ball like a point guard, and Jalen Hood-Schifino is a really good passer. He averaged 3.7 assists per game for Indiana this season, and Indiana wasn't even the best shooting team in the world. So he probably would have had more assists if Indiana had made more big shots. He also averaged 4.1 rebounds per game, which is really solid for a point guard. I know that overall he is a 6'5" type player, so maybe you could say he could have a few more rebounds, but still 4.1 rebounds is really solid. And he averaged 13.5 points per game, but he had a few outbursts, like the 35-point game that he had at Purdue, at Mackey Arena when Indiana went there and won earlier this year. And I think that game is really what propelled Jalen Hood-Schifino up the draft boards. He also had a 33-point game over Northwestern in a loss for Indiana earlier on in the season. And Jalen Hood-Schifino has shown the capability of being a player that can really fill it up. He's a good mid-range shooter. He can pull up from anywhere on the floor and knock down a tough jumper. And he's also a capable three-point shooter. He shot 33.3% from the three-point line, and he shot 41.7% from the field this season. So that's not bad. He has the capability of hitting long shots, but I will say Jalen Hood-Schifino did shoot the ball from three a lot better earlier on in the year. He was shooting around 37% for most of the season, but toward the tail end of the season after that Purdue game where he exploded, he did struggle from three, and his three-point shooting percentage went down to 33.3%. And that's where a lot of draft experts are conflicted on Jalen Hood-Schifino, which is why you'll see him anywhere from ranked around 13 in the draft down to around 25, because people are just confused on where Jalen Hood-Schifino is as a draft prospect. He has all the tantalizing abilities as a 6'5" point guard that can do it all, pass, rebound, and shoot, but he doesn't shoot the ball well enough for a lot of people to think that he could be a lottery pick. Plus, you also look at Jalen Hood-Schifino. He does struggle to get to the rim at times because he's not the fastest guy in the world. He has sneaky speed, and he is capable of hitting really tough layups, so I think he will be fine in that regard, but he did pull up for a lot of mid-range shots because he doesn't really have the speed all the time to blow by smaller defenders that are quicker to get to the rim. But Jalen Hood-Schifino did shoot 77.6% from the free throw line, so that does show you that he has the potential to be a really good shooter because he did shoot well at the free throw line. So I do think Jalen Hood-Schifino can develop as a shooter, but if he does not, that's where his weaknesses do lie, and where Jalen Hood-Schifino maybe has the argument that he should have returned for a second year to Indiana because of that. He could have got better as a three-point shooter, maybe got a little bit better with turnovers. He did average around 3 turnovers a game, so he's a bit turnover prone. Maybe cut back on the turnovers, maybe shoot the basketball a little bit better from the three-point line, and Jalen Hood-Schifino might have been able to move up the draft boards even more, but you don't want to risk injury. Jalen Hood-Schifino Hood-Schifino is too good of a draft prospect right now. Even though there are arguments for him to return to college, I do think Jalen Hood-Schifino is ready for the NBA draft. Whether he has a lot of success or not is going to be completely determined on what team he goes to and the type of work that he puts in on his jump shot. And if he does, then I think Jalen Hood-Schifino can have a really successful NBA career because he has all the tantalizing abilities to be a high-level player in the NBA in the future if he can develop more of a three-point shot, get better at driving to the rim, and still facilitate at a high level at his 6'5" frame. Then I think Jalen Hood-Schifino could have a really good NBA career. And I think if he goes to a team that will give him a lot of time to develop and be able to have a lot of playing time, then I think that will help him even more. So for Jalen Hood-Schifino, I do think he is ready for the draft, and I hope he has a lot of success in the NBA because he is a really talented player, and he has so many attributes and strengths that I think they outweigh the weaknesses that Jalen Hood-Schifino has. But where does this leave Indiana? This is a really interesting situation because Indiana right now is losing Trayce Jackson-Davis to the NBA draft. That's a really tough loss. He is an all-time program great. He didn't have the wins that Indiana would have liked in the NCAA tournament or hanging any banners, but Trayce Jackson-Davis is a program legend. But you're also losing Jalen Hood-Schifino, and he is a great point guard. If Indiana can get a medical hardship waiver for Xavier Johnson, he could come back next season, but Indiana's still going to be weak at the guard positions. I think that they're really going to have to find a really good guard in the transfer portal. They're looking at Caleb Love and some other really good guards in the portal, Nick Timberlake as well. I think if Indiana can land one of those, it's possible the Hoosiers will be in good shape, and this is where Jalen Hood-Schifino's importance comes in. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino being a one-and-done guard actually helps out Indiana because Mike Woodson's an NBA coach, and what do players want to do? They want to go to the NBA, and Mike Woodson can tell players now, look, I got Jalen Hood-Schifino, a player that was supposed to be a 2-year player, a potential NBA player, to be able to be a one-and-done and a potential lottery pick. That is huge for Mike Woodson. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino being a one-and-done actually helps out Indiana more than if he would come back, because now Mike Woodson can sell that in the transfer portal and in high school recruiting to be able to bring in more players that could have a lot of success in an Indiana uniform. So overall, Jalen Hood-Schifino declaring for the draft is a good thing for Indiana as well. It's a good look for the program that things are starting to trend in the right direction, that the Hoosiers can get players into the pros like Trayce Jackson-Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino, and I think Indiana could be good for years to come based on the fact that they should be able to get in more good players in the transfer portal and in high school recruiting that want to go to the NBA, and they'll believe Indiana is a place that can do it because they have an NBA coach in Mike Woodson, and he's gotten a couple of players into the NBA already. So I think overall for Indiana, things are looking up. But for Jalen Hood-Schifino, he is a fantastic basketball player. I'm going to be really interested to see where he lands in this year's upcoming draft. I think he has a lot of potential to be a lottery pick. He's going to have to do a lot of good things in the NBA draft combine and show off his skills and really knock down some shots and be able to get to the rim and get some good layups in the games that they're going to play and all the scrimmages that he's going to have. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is a great basketball player. He does have some weaknesses. Again, cut back on the turnovers. He needs to get better at shooting the basketball, but he has so much skill for his size. He's a great player, a 6'5" level guard that can do it all, a pretty decent shooter, a really good mid-range shooter to show that the mid-range is not dead in the NBA. He can get to the rim, but he's a good passer and a good rebounder. He needs to get a little bit better at defense as well. I think his defense is a bit weak. Sometimes he does let smaller guys blow by him, but if he gets a little bit better on the defensive end, and I do think he will be guarding more players of his size in the NBA, so he should be okay there. He's a really strong player. He also weighs around 210 pounds, so he should be able to take all of the hits and bruises and bumps in the NBA. But I do think that Jalen Hood-Schifino made the right decision to go to the NBA draft. I think he's ready. I hope he has a lot of success. I think he will have a lot of success if he uses all of his strengths in the NBA, can get better at his weaknesses. But I also think it's going to help out Indiana as well for future recruiting because they have a guy that went to the NBA draft in 1 year. Mike Woodson will be able to sell that for the program. So for Jalen Hood-Schifino and Indiana, I think this is a big win-win both ways. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Jalen Hood-Schifino declaring for the draft and whether you think he's ready for the 2023 NBA draft and where you think this leaves Indiana as a program in the future. Follow me on Twitter as well, and I will see you next time.